I was on the floor, literally like on the floor crying. My body felt like it was crashing from the inside out. And in that moment, I knew, I was like, if I keep going, I'm going to die.
Meditator, poet,
#1 New York Times bestselling author.
Young Pueblo.
That's his pen name. His real name is Diego Perez.
Awareness, non-reaction, compassion. Everyone has these qualities, but are they strong? As I've been putting more and more of that time and energy into literally shaping the culture of my mind, these are the moments where I'm literally taking myself to the mental gym.
The people out there who have very impressive physiques tend to be the most insecure and mentally not fit.
Yeah, the people who are my teachers have meditated like 50,000 hours. Like these people are weapons. Like their minds are so strong.
I imagine a lot of us have some degree of healing which we need to process. How do we go about that?
Yeah, I think it definitely can be.
Now, before we jump into today's episode, I just want to mention that this podcast is brought to you by me and everything that I have built to help you guys level up. If you want to transform your physique, build muscle, lose body fat, build strength, then you have the Thirst app. This has everything inside that you could possibly need to get yourself in shape, to hold yourself accountable as well. I also have the Digital Playbook, which is a step-by-step guide to help you guys build a following, monetize the following, and also build a strong personal brand. This is everything which I have done over the past nearly 10 years to allow myself to live a life of financial freedom and also geographical freedom. I can basically do whatever I want. Life is good. And I also have my newsletter, which has been revamped, where I'll share exclusive podcast insights, my raw thoughts on business, fitness, and much, much more. So if you're interested about any of those, check out the description. You'll find the links to all of them. Now let's get cracking with the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to First Things First. We have a special guest today, Diego Perez. How you doing?
I'm doing really well, brother. Thank you so much for having me on.
No worries. Am I going to be speaking to you today or Young Pueblo?
We'll see who comes out. No. Young Pueblo is just a pen name.
Yeah.
But Diego's just fine.
How did that name come about?
Honestly, it came up intuitively. I felt like when I created my Instagram account, Young almost was a calling to my Americanness, and Pueblo is a word that is just used really often in Ecuador, where I was born. And when I started meditating, the name took on greater meaning. And I started realizing not only am I really immature and I have a lot of growing to do, but also I love studying history. And when I look at the world and look at historical patterns, humanity as a whole is very young. And because it literally means young people. And when we think about, what we try to teach 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, how to clean up after themselves, how to be kind to each other, how to cooperate, how to tell the truth. These are fundamentals that we teach kids, but humanity as a collective, we haven't mastered these things at all.
Yeah. Did you study that at college?
I did study a lot of history, but I majored in economics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've obviously done a bit of research into your history and your upbringing, where you studied, and you were quite the party animal.
Yeah, party with the best of them. Yeah, it was interesting. Part of it was the culture where it was fun, but I knew, like, especially in the middle of it, in the 4 years of university, by the middle of it, I knew that I was very actively running away from myself. That, like, whenever I would feel some type of like tension or sadness in the mind, I would want to just roll up a joint, or I'd want to, be with friends, or keep staying out later and later. And, I'd be the person who'd be staying out until 7, 8 in the morning and just like keeping the party going as long as possible. And it pushed my body to the absolute edge. Like, my body was incredibly unhealthy. My mind was unhealthy. And all of that was because I didn't want to accept myself.
It's strange at university because maybe it's different now compared to how it was. But I remember when I think back to the 3 years when I was at Newcastle University, I was doing economics and business management. And I didn't really spend much time by myself at all.
Yeah.
Like you're put in these, first year, the halls of accommodation. So you're surrounded by students.
Yeah.
You have your own room, but like everything's very much, you have the communal area. And then the second year, third year, I was living in a house full of my friends.
Yeah.
And it was almost impossible to get time to yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's for good reason, right? Because those bonds are really important. Like, even though that was one of the, probably the most chaotic period of my life, those friendships that I made, even through that storm, are like incredibly valuable. You know, a lot of my best friends come from that time. People I work with now come from that time, and I'm grateful that those bonds have lasted through the changes because
Hmm.
we've seen each other grow. And a lot of the people who are animals, like I was, like, you know, like really just going hard partying, they've also gone through their own transformations and have really sort of, you know, righted themselves.
Hmm. So it's a good thing, I guess, that you got it out of your system earlier rather than later. Because I see a lot of successful people who've come into a lot of money.
Oh yeah, and they end up partying a lot
Yeah,
later, right?
see,
Yeah.
they
Oh,
didn't
no.
do that at university.
Yeah.
They just went like all in with the work,
Yeah.
like for a decade.
Yeah.
So the balance was completely off whack. And then they hit their mid-30s, maybe their 40s, but they're like multimillionaires, but they haven't lived life.
Or their early 60s.
Yes.
And then they're going hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I see that. And I'm like, honestly, that's not the life I'm trying to live. I enjoy a good time. I enjoy being around friends. I especially love being around people who are just funny. You know,
Mhm.
like I love a good laugh. But yeah, I don't need to go out like that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did it change for you then? Was it when you had the health scare where you're like, okay, I
Yeah.
need to sort my life out?
Yeah. I knew that I needed to sort things out when it just like everything came crashing down. Like I was a real weekend warrior and I kept pushing it. I graduated about a year after. There was one particular moment where I had just honestly consumed too many drugs. I had consumed way too many things. My body felt like it was crashing from the inside out. And I was on the floor, literally like on the floor, crying, feeling like my heart was going to explode. Like it felt like the most erratic beating inside my chest. And I talked to a doctor later about it. And when I described it to her, she said that it sounded like a mild heart attack. And this was at 23 years old, you know? So I was really pushing it to the edge.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I knew, I was like, if I keep going, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And instead, I don't want to go out like this. Cause I kept thinking about my parents specifically. Like my parents, we, emigrated from Ecuador to the United States. They brought me here when I was 4 years old. They brought me here as an opportunity. They were literally rolling the dice to see what would happen in the United States because Ecuador was a very tough economic situation where, you know, the every change in government would create almost like a blank economic slate where, you know, the banks don't work well. There's a lot of sort of fundamentals that we take for granted in the Western world that, you know, in different countries in South America, you're not that fortunate. So I thought about them and how they took such a big risk for me, and I'm just tossing it away because I'm afraid to feel my emotions.
Yeah.
And I knew in that moment I needed to do the opposite of what I was doing. So I needed to tell myself the truth. I needed to start embracing my emotions. I needed to put the hard drugs away. I needed to literally sign up to a gym, start walking, like just doing the opposite. And it was the start of a new chapter.
Yeah. I think I kind of feel as though I experienced something similar. Not in terms of going maybe as crazy as you did, but I think because
you look like you got a little party in you for sure, man. Especially coming from the UK.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a big drinking culture.
Yeah.
And I definitely had my phases, but I think one thing that always kept me kind of on track was first of all the gym, because I was always passionate about the gym
Nice.
as soon as I was 17 years old. So whenever things would start to go a little bit out of control, I did have an ability to pull myself out of the situation or be like, come on, Mike, like, let's not do this.
Yeah.
Where I would watch some of my other friends take it a little bit too far. And then I think because I was fortunate enough to go to private school, my dad had obviously spent a lot of money to put me in that school. So to throw it all away and waste it would have been, you know, just such a waste of potential.
Did you play sports too?
Oh yeah. That was...
Which ones?
I tried all of them.
Yeah.
Predominantly it was rugby.
Yeah.
So from 9 years old up until 17, 18, I was playing rugby every single year.
Wow.
It was actually to the point where it was every day. Because I played for the school and then there was the club on, this was in the local area. So I'd have the school match on a Saturday, the club match on a Sunday, and then we would practice every single day.
Wow.
So it was extreme, but I think just the sheer amount of calories that I was burning ensured that I never really was out of shape. Then it was really good for building friendship groups because there was all the friends I had from the club, and then all my friends that were playing at school. So I think that's, that was amazing for the experience of school itself. And then in the summer months, I literally tried everything. I tried golf, did athletics, did football. I was terrible at football, basketball, tried it all. And then it got to university time where I think I'd done so much rugby. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to go to the gym.
Yeah.
But I get asked this. People say, why did you want to go to the gym? Like, what was it that made you want to build your physique and build your body? And still to this day, I can't pinpoint one exact thing.
Yeah. Was it, did you ever compete? Because we have a lot of like physique competitions here in the US.
The competing didn't happen until I was 22, 23.
Oh, okay.
So I'd already built my physique.
Yeah.
It's not like a dream was to go up on stage. I don't know if it was just because I really wanted to look a certain way. I don't know if it had something to do with wanting to improve my chances with girls.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was so that I could perhaps look a little bit more menacing so I didn't become a target. Maybe it was a combination of everything. I'm not sure.
Yeah, either way, it turns out for the best. I think about that a lot in my life, and I'm a slow learner in some ways. It's like when I'll notice a big thing that I need to change about myself, and I'll, basically only have one or two goals for a whole year and just like really hone in on this one thing and make sure that it becomes like a second nature, like a real part of my life. And I remember when I started going away to meditation courses, I knew that I wanted to start meditating daily. And that took 2 years of me really trying to be able to make it a part of my life. And now I meditate 2 hours a day, no matter what, whatever happens, it's going to get done. And as I've been putting more and more of that time and energy into literally shaping the culture of my mind, literally building the qualities of, awareness, non-reaction, compassion. It's like, these are the moments where I'm literally taking myself to the mental gym and literally build, because everyone has these qualities the same way we all have, the muscles that we're born with, but are they strong? And that's what sort of meditation has been showing me, is if you train the mind in particular ways, you will get certain good results. And now that meditating has become sort of second nature, and no matter what, I'm always going to put that time in. I've been turning more and more of my attention to my sleep, working out, running. And the next thing that's up at bat is strength training.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of the people out there who have very impressive physiques more often than not tend to be the most insecure and mentally not fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they have amassed a big following from the way they look, that magnifies the problem even more.
Yeah, my thing is like I'm like chubby and content, because I've been like working on my mind for such a long time. Like I have a friend of mine who does like Ironmans, and he sort of has like this physique that I'm like working towards. But he's also meditated. He's done about 3 10-day courses, but I put in a lot more hours. I did a rough estimate of how much time I've meditated, and it's like 12,000 to 13,000 hours.
So the 10,000 hours has been done. Yeah,
10,000 hours is a while ago. And when I think about that, we were laughing one day because he was like, your mind is like David Goggins' body. You're like, I put so much time into it. And then when I think about the people that I look up to, like the people who are my teachers have meditated like 30,000 hours, 50,000 hours. Like these people are just weapons. Like their minds are so strong and they're very peaceful. They're very, very, they don't have insecurity.
Are they monks?
No, they're just regular people.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But older, I would imagine.
Yeah. One of them is in his 50s. He started when he was about 20. The other person also started in their 20s and he's 76. And they're just, they're married and they have lives, they have jobs. And it's interesting that if you want to make it a part of your life, you don't have to be a monk to be a really serious meditator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've heard you say before that if you really want to get to grips with it and understand it and actually be good at it, it's worth doing a course.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of value in pulling yourself out of the regular everyday life. And I think those qualities, like when I go away to a 45-day retreat that's totally silent, it's almost like you're like the shape of an American football, you like take that football and you like throw it down a field. That's almost like what it's like in terms of your personal growth. It's like you're on one side of the field, and by the end of the 45-day retreats, you're getting launched and you're a whole different, shinier, more vibrant, and much more decisive and compassionate version of yourself. So that growth
45 days.
Yeah, 45 days, silence. And my wife and I usually go together, and people think that we're like together in the same room. Like, absolutely not. She's in her own room. I'm in my own room. I don't actually see her for the whole course until it's done. And
It'd be a good break for some couples.
Yeah, yeah. But missing each other feels like we gain a new sense of respect for what we have. To be able to like really cherish this amazing person that's right next to you. It's easy to forget how special this opportunity is for us to even be together. And when we come back at the end of it, it's like a whole new chapter in our relationship. It's really nice.
I'd imagine you having any phone time.
No. So the first thing when you get to the retreat, whether it's a silent 10-day retreat, 30 days, 45 days, whatever it is, you get there, the first thing you're doing is giving up your phone. You give up your phone and they lock it away. Yeah. And it's just, honestly, I give the phone away with so much glee. I'm just like, please take it. Like, I'm so done with it.
So, but I would imagine you would probably need to be in a position financially where you can do that. And then at the same time, if you do have a business or businesses, the team need to be obviously told, hey, look, I'm going off the map.
Yeah.
For 45 days.
They know. And, I'm a part of 3 different businesses. Like Young Pueblo is its own business. I have a VC firm that I co-founded, Wisdom Ventures, and an app that I'm building called Ready. And you got to have good co-founders or a really good COO. But your business should be able to withstand you not being there. You should build it sturdy enough that they don't need you every single moment of every single day.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why it's that specific amount of days?
Well, it fluctuates. So I've done, like last year I did a 45-day retreat. This year I'm going to do 20 days because of when the book launch, my most recent book launch, How to Love Better. I usually meditate 45 days between January to February. So this year I'm going to do 20 days after the book is launched, and then I'll probably do another 30 days separately. Later in the year, probably in like October or November. Yeah.
It almost sounds like it's an addiction. Like I need to get my 20 days of meditation.
No, I don't think of it as an addiction. I think of it as an investment where like it's better than the S&P 500. Like I invest this time into myself, and it just makes everything about life so much better. Like I can put that time into really strengthening my mind. My creativity blossoms, my ability to connect with people develops with much more ease, where before I was meditating, all of my interactions were very superficial. Like I could barely look you in the eye, and now I can look at you in the eye with comfort. And even as soon as you walked in, it's like I inside of myself, I felt the openness to actually be friends. But without that training, I wouldn't have had that. And I think to me, like, it's definitely a big time commitment, but it feels like it's just what I like. It's just like really important to me. So I give it the time, and it just brings back huge results.
But imagine if you clocked up the average person and the amount of time they're scrolling.
Yeah.
And you added it up throughout the year.
How much time would that be?
Yeah, if you just use that time to be off your phone and have that retreat, you wouldn't actually be wasting it at all.
No, and we all use our times in different ways. And, I scroll too, but like, I don't know, there's something about, I've always been fascinated by learning about the universe, and there's no better way to learn about the universe than by closing your eyes and observing reality within the framework of the body. Like your body's literally a sort of a small subset of the universe, and being able to study that, it wows me.
Does it not? Because I do this sometimes before I go to bed. I'll watch these documentaries on YouTube about space and the universe. And if I am stressed out about something or worried or anxious, I'll sometimes watch it, and then I'm just like, oh, none of this really matters.
Yeah.
Like my problems are so insignificant.
Yeah.
And then I just surprisingly go to bed at more peace. Now, of course, it could work in the other way because some people can get so worked about it that it's actually scary.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for me, I find it quite calming.
I love that. I think that's one thing that's helped me too is understanding this fundamental law that's pervasive throughout the universe, impermanence, right? And that's something that we struggle against. Like we don't like that things are impermanent. We have a combative relationship with change. And when we understand that we need to work with the universe as opposed to against it. And our universe is one where everything is constantly flowing. We're talking about at the atomic level, the biological level, the cosmological level. Everything is like a flowing river that's just moving forward. You can't go backwards. You can only keep flowing and changing forward. So when people try to hang on, when people try to fight change, when people live lives where they're extremely attached to particular outcomes, then it's going to hurt. Life is
Mhm.
going to hurt. So when I go away to meditate, I think that's the main thing I'm learning is that the embracing of change is a direct opposite of attachment.
Yeah. Whose work do you like to read and
Mm.
watch about this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I do read a lot of books by monks. Like this is monk Bhikkhu Bodhi, who writes a lot of fantastic books about the Buddhist teaching. I really like Jiddu Krishnamurti. He passed away in the 80s. He was like a famous sort of like a philosopher. And he's more of the like self-enlightened type. Like he doesn't really have a particular tradition. And something just happened to him and he just like understood reality really well.
Mhm.
Whereas like for me, it's like not like, I'm not enlightened or anything like that, but my inner development has been very gradual. Like I had to put time, put effort into really understanding myself and the universe better for it to show up in, different change behavior in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say you're more spiritual than religious?
I would say neither. I would say I'm really practical.
Okay.
Honestly. I think like I'm not one for mysticism. Like I like things to be clear, and one of the reasons why. So this meditation tradition I'm a part of, it's the whole thing it's trying to do is help you observe reality as it is, not what you're projecting onto reality, not what you're sort of misconstruing or an illusion. You're trying to just see what's actually happening. So when you're going away to these retreats, like when you get to the first part of it, usually for the first 3 days, you're training yourself to just be aware of the breath itself without changing it. You're not doing anything else to it. And being able to just feel the rawness of what's happening in that moment, how mundane it could be, sometimes even boring. You're just being okay with being in the present moment as opposed to flying away to the future, flying away to the past.
Mm.
And I love that about life because now when problems arise in life, I do my best to not run away from them. And I'm just like, okay, what's actually happening? And how can I show up in this moment? And I love the practicality of it.
I feel like nothing would phase you now at this point. You just seem to be so chill. Like,
Yeah.
is there anything that to this day you feel a little bit, I don't know, out of control or anxious, or have you really you've really mastered your brain?
I feel like I feel everything that everyone else feels, but the main things that used to really trouble my mind, like sadness, anxiety, I feel them from time to time, but nowhere near to the same intensity as before. And
Mhm.
things definitely shake me, like if something happens to my mom or my dad, like, I feel that grief. If something happens to my brother or my sister or my wife, and these people that are closest to me, like I care for them deeply, and they almost feel like extensions of what I imagine as my life. So these people who are quite close, I cherish them deeply, but at the same time, I'm very cognizant that they are my biggest attachments. So
Mhm.
I know that I can't control them. I can't I can only really support them and ask them how they would like for me to support their happiness. But other than that, I have no control over their lives
Yeah.
or their health.
So if you were to experience a feeling of, you probably wouldn't feel the full emotion, but like a sadness or an anger, what goes through your mind when you're trying to process that? So let's say, for example, if it's not got anything to do with family, this could be something else.
Yeah, that's a great question. So whenever something like that arises in my mind, it feels like heaviness is moving through. I don't even need to necessarily name the emotion. It's not like, oh, this is anger or I'm sad, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed. It's not like that. It's more like tension is moving through my mind. Heaviness is moving through my mind. Even in the way that, my wife and I were very aware of telling each other how we feel during the day, because it's quite helpful so that unnecessary arguments don't start. What we do is, we let each other know, like, oh, I have some heaviness moving through me right now. The same way like clouds move through the sky. And speaking in that language is much more, connected to what's actually happening inside, where like I'm never like permanently sad.
Yeah.
I'm never permanently like unhappy. It's just like, I just don't feel that good right now.
Yeah.
And it's just moving through.
Yeah, because you do have some days where you wake up and you're like, why do I feel like low today?
Yeah.
It could be something to do with sleep. It could be, I've noticed this with myself. If I am feeling like that, it's usually an indication that something needs to change.
Yeah.
Like I've kind of figured that out now. I'm not upset or sad about a particular thing, but more so just something isn't sitting right, and something I wanted is maybe not happening, or something. I think you mentioned this before, having an expectation of how you thought something was going to be, and it doesn't meet that expectation. You're like, oh,
yeah. I think there are times where there's like the need for more exploration of like what's actually happening. Like why did my emotions lead me to having a meal later on in the day, or sleeping less because I couldn't put these thoughts away. Then there are other times where it's sort of like it's just like kind of unconscious behavior, or you don't realize that maybe your body's fighting something. Because in the process of my wife and I learning more about ourselves as individuals through meditation, we also started seeing that a lot of our arguments were unnecessary, where it wasn't like every time you're upset, it's not necessarily connected to like the deepest wound of your childhood. Sometimes it's just like you just ate the wrong food.
Yeah.
And then you don't.
Or you didn't eat enough food.
Or you didn't eat enough, and then you're really, you're hangry. And we found that there are these moments where it's like, okay, I don't feel great, but then what is the mind trying to do with that? Because the mind loves to find more reasons to be upset. It'll just like, once you're already upset, it'll go backwards in time, try to pick some old argument up. And then all of a sudden you're using that as like cannon fodder to create an argument out of nowhere. And I think being able to communicate, like, and just for myself, like if I don't feel good, I let my wife know, but in the act of letting her know, I'm also letting myself know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, don't slip into any tricks of the mind there, because you actually aren't upset with her at all. You're just, it's just a little heaviness moving through you.
Yeah, I've noticed that with myself. And when I've been in relationships, particularly if it's, a long-term relationship where I'm with them regularly.
Yeah.
I know myself, and I know every so often, if I'm not in a good mood, something's put me in a bad mood, I don't want to take it out on them, but I know what I'm like, and I just need to go off by myself for, it could be half an hour, it could be an hour, but I need to let them know, like, hey, look, I need to just go off and do my thing for a second and just process what I'm either going through. It could be work related, it could be something completely different, but I know that if they're with me, they're going to feel my bad energy and bad vibe, and I don't want that to spread to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's been quite difficult because they don't understand it. Like what's up with you? Let me help. And I'm like, look, there's nothing you can do right now to help me.
Yeah.
I just need to go off and be alone for a little bit, and then I'll come back and everything will be fine. But just understand, like, I need to just process this by myself for
That's a lot of self-awareness from your part, because sometimes we forget that it's okay to move slowly. Like you don't, like, just because you have a moment where there's tension, it doesn't mean that it needs immediate resolution or immediately we need to fix this. Sometimes you don't even really know what's going on. You just need some time to be able to take that space. I think that's one thing we've honestly learned the hard way through my relationship is like, let the difficult moment take the time that it needs, as opposed to trying to rush through it, because sometimes I don't even know what I want. She doesn't know what she wants. And it's through multiple conversations, and in between the conversations, taking time apart to just like breathe and then come back, and then we'll, figure out what's the best middle path.
Yeah, I think that's when the importance of communication is necessary, because I could, for example, be with a partner who is in one of those moods.
Yeah.
Now, it could be the case where they need to be left alone to do their own thing and process it, or I either need to be there to support them and talk to them through it. But how do you figure out like which one you should do?
Yeah.
Like either they should communicate it to you, or you can try ask them what they need. But as you said, like they might not even know what they need.
I think the main thing too is, especially when you're going into a serious relationship, you want to make sure that you don't have the silent expectation of craving for your partner to read your mind. Like you really got to get good at being honest with yourself, and then trying your best to set up your partner for success so that they're equipped with the information that they need to support your happiness. And also knowing that the culture of your relationship, it's also going to change over time. Like the things that work to support each other's happiness last year, not necessarily going to work this year because you're two changing human beings. And I think leaning on communication, I've been thinking a lot about how when we were children and our parents would celebrate Christmas or something, sometimes it felt like, how did my parents know the exact gift to get me? It's because like your parents are like watching you grow up. They know what TV shows you watch. They know what sports you like. So it's not that hard to get you the right gift. And we sort of bring almost like a similar energy because when we're with a partner, it's our partner's on our parent, but we are creating a home together. And part of us does crave like, just read my mind. Like don't make me tell you everything. But the reality is that they're not going to be able to read your mind. So just double down on, letting them know like this is my emotional history. These are my patterns. This is how I would like for us to show up for each other.
What would your advice be if you are in the early stages of a relationship and you really do care for or maybe even love your partner, but they aren't very self-aware, or maybe they don't have a huge degree of emotional maturity? Like, can that be taught and trained, or are you realistically better off just finding somebody who is more on your level?
Yeah, I think it definitely can be, people they can train themselves, but they have to train themselves. Like you can't coach your partner through that. I think that creates a really, not great power dynamic where one partner thinks they're more self-aware than the other and then they're trying to like push growth upon the person. Like you have to have your own willingness to grow. And I think wherever it is that you start, whether you have zero emotional intelligence or not, I think having that willingness to put in the energy to developing the qualities that you lack, that's going to make for more harmony in a relationship. And it's interesting. Like some people are really, they feel connected to different forms of therapy. I personally really like meditating. I think it doesn't matter. I think you have to find something that meets you where you're at and help that, keep focusing on that thing and let it cultivate you. But people will start in very different areas. I remember when my wife and I, when we started our relationship, I mean, there was very little emotional maturity between the two of us. Like I didn't know myself. And because I didn't know myself, it was a struggle to know her well.
How old
and
were you
vice
at that
versa.
point?
We were young, 18, 19.
Okay,
We were kids.
Yeah.
And I think it was quite a battle to be able to have any harmony because there was no harmony in us as individuals.
Yeah, I've had a fair share of relationships. I'm definitely not perfect.
How old are you now?
I'm 34.
Nice.
So every time a relationship has sort of been and gone, I reflect upon it and I think about what were the good things about it, what were the bad things about it, what were the things which I did wrong, maybe could have done better. That's why I love this journey that I'm on. And you know how when a lot of people break up or they finish a relationship, they are very saddened and they're depressed for a while. I would say I've definitely got better at dealing with that, and I will look back and just think about all the good times and what I've learned from that experience. And it's definitely helped me. But I even question myself sometimes now. I'm like, what are you looking for, Mike? Like what's I feel as though one of my flaws is I keep thinking there's always going to be something better.
Oh man. And I was going to tell you, I was like, I've seen similar things happen with friends of mine who are handsome. Like they're sort of spoiled for choice.
Mm.
and like they have a lot of options. And when you have a lot of options, it's really hard to settle down, especially when the craving of the mind pulls you into a particular direction where it's looking for someone who's maybe like 2% better.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult because that falls under the illusion that a relationship can just right off the bat automatically be perfect. And that's just totally untrue
Mhm.
because the physical beauty that we have incredibly finite, so finite. It'll, you can use all the Botox in the world and it's still finite. And
Yeah.
the beauty will decay. And I think that's one thing to understand, that like we have to be okay with building a beautiful relationship with someone, and that it's not just going to happen automatically. I think our apps, all the apps, then not just like dating apps, but all our apps in general, like in the phone, they are creating this like sickness in our culture where everything is easier, faster, and more bliss oriented. It's just trying to make your whole life easier. And when we bring that type of mentality into like our relationship and we want like a 5-star partner, the same way we want to go to a 5-star restaurant, it's just not like that.
Mhm.
We build each other up when we build our relationship, and that takes time for it to, for you to be able to get the most beautiful relationship, you have to be okay with there being ups and downs. And I think about my wife and I, we got together so young and we're older now. Like I'm 37, she's 35. And we look at each other and we're starting to see the wrinkles come in.
Yeah.
We're getting older. And
I'm seeing a couple of gray hairs
yeah,
creep through on the side.
exactly. Right. And I'm like, and to me, I'm like, I couldn't be happier to be with her. And honestly, I look forward to us being old little people together,
Yeah.
because it's like, the thing that I feel connected to her is much more magnetic and deeper than just what I'm visually seeing.
Hmm. So you'd have to make a conscious decision, like, right, let's make an effort to make this relationship work.
Does this person feel right? Are they willing to grow? Do they have the humility to learn? And do they understand the concept that I can love you, but I don't necessarily know how to care for you? And I need to be able to be open to learning how to care for you over time.
Mhm.
And then you build a beautiful relationship together.
Is this all coming from meditation?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's weird. The meditating has just helped clarify my mind a lot. I don't read self help. Like I've never read Eckhart Tolle. I don't never read a Deepak Chopra book. Like those aren't the things that like all my. If you look at, I have a lot of books in my house, and they're all history books, just like World War II, Russian Revolution, like all this type of stuff.
Mhm.
But what I learn about life comes directly from honestly letting go of the attachments in my mind by embracing impermanence in the body. There's something about this law of impermanence. When you're able to really feel it in the body, it opens the mind to deeper levels of wisdom and clarity. And I have a conversation. I was talking to a neuroscientist the other day, and we were talking about different aspects of the mind. And it's so interesting how the same understandings that I'm coming to by going away to these longer retreats with my eyes closed, they come to these same understandings with these sort of, bigger macro studies
Mhm.
and macro analysis and all this data and whatnot. And it's great. We're arriving to these conclusions, but the using meditating to arrive to these conclusions, it's not just an intellectual understanding. It's totally changing my perception, clarifying it. And I'm not perfect or anything like that.
Mhm.
I have a lot of development that I need to do, but I can't deny that it's helping every facet of my life.
Yeah, it's fascinating because, I mean, just going on your Instagram, like there's all these powerful quotes that
Oh,
you're
thanks.
posting, and it's almost like you would, for someone to be writing things like that, they would have to have gone through a whole lot of experience.
Mm.
Whether it be loads of different relationships or just studying different books, different people, but it's like it's just coming to you.
Yeah, the silence really helps. I mean, honestly, like just like I was also a supply and demand guy when we were both in university studying
Mm.
economics. I went into university, so I grew up really poor. And my thought was, I need to become an investment banker because that's how I can pull my family out of poverty as fast as possible. Luckily, that didn't work. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
But when I started meditating, 2 years after I got out of university, it unlocked this side of creativity that I had never seen before. Like I never enjoyed writing before that. And I knew that because of the process of meditating, like I wasn't fully wise. I didn't have everything figured out, but I knew that the changes that were happening in my mind were real, and I was excited to like explore them through writing. So that's
Mhm.
how everything kind of started on Instagram, where I would just share some of my reflections, and people would resonate with them.
I think that's one of the hardest things to undo, all these negative behavioral patterns that we have and these bad habits that we've accumulated. Because even I find myself doing things on a day-to-day basis, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
Mm,
why am I doing this? Um, and I think a lot of that would just come from putting the phone away and just sitting and reflecting. And I think one thing which I've noticed, which I've started doing more, I don't know if maybe it's something which has just happened with age. I'm enjoying my own company more.
nice.
And I didn't really get to do that until maybe the age of 26, when this was the first time that I went and lived by myself.
Mm,
So I moved to a new city. I went from Newcastle to London, lived by myself. Um, I guess beforehand, I'd always been surrounded by people, some friends, co-workers, and I'd never really been fully able to listen to myself and believe in myself and
yeah.
try things for myself. And surprise, surprise, the moment I did that, everything started to flourish. My confidence,
Wow.
my career, social media, like everything. Because I think beforehand, I just didn't think that I could do these things by myself. That I needed to rely on other people.
That's so amazing too, because I can tell. I mean, when you walked in and this is our first time meeting. I've been following you for a little while, but it's our first time meeting, and you can feel like I think there's a big connection between how you hold yourself in solitude and the energy that reverberates around you when you're around other people,
Hmm.
and that's it's soothing to the nervous system. Like I'm sitting next to you, and I feel great.
Yeah.
I don't. I think that's because you feel great inside of you too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Whoop. The all-new Whoop is here, the only wearable that turns your health and fitness data into personalized guidance. Now, 7% smaller with 14 days of battery life. I've been wearing Whoop since 2021, and I've been wearing it every single day. It's a device which I have used to improve my training, improve my sleep, and stay away from the things which are definitely not good for me. It has been a game changer. Now, Whoop includes a heart screener with on-demand ECG readings, so you can check in on your heart anytime and share results with your healthcare provider. It also includes a health span, a new feature that demystifies the aging process and shows how your daily habits impact your pace of aging, as well as hormonal insights for personalized guidance throughout your cycle or pregnancy. It's the only wearable that gives you a truly comprehensive view of your body, designed to help you improve your performance, longevity, and overall health. So you can join now at joinwhoop.com/first things first to get your first month for free. Let's get back to the episode. What piece of advice would you give to some people who maybe need to just spend a little bit more time alone? Because I have friends, I've been there, not so much myself, but I know other people who really struggle to just
Mm.
be alone.
Yeah, it's hard.
This is scary for them because they have to deal with, I guess they're afraid of their own thoughts in a way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're afraid to be alone, then there's an emotion that's calling for your attention that you don't want to, turn towards it and just accept it.
Hmm.
I think so in the process of being alone to just like practice, and we're not talking about like spending days and days by yourself, but just having moments where you can go out for a walk. Have moments where you're not necessarily just scrolling on your phone. You're not thinking about the next piece of content that you're going to put up. You're just like practicing being instead of doing, whether it's through meditating or making art or just doing something that's a little quieter. um, those are moments where you can tap into the actual present moment and build your ability to even have presence. Because when you can be with yourself alone, that means that the next time that you're around someone that you care about, you're going to have a much more fortified sense of presence to be able to give to another person. And to me, it was interesting, right? Like I went into meditating because I needed to save myself. Like I needed to put work into just like undoing all this heaviness and sadness and anxiety in my mind. And I had to build the quality of being okay with being alone, understanding myself, listening to myself, accepting myself. But then these qualities stemmed from that solitude, stemmed from the practice, helped me start a new chapter in my own mind, but it also opened up a new chapter in my relationship.
Hmm.
And we have to think these things are very interconnected. There's a clear bridge between your personal growth and how you show up in all of your relationships.
How do you propose that to a partner, that you need to have time for doing your own thing and being alone? Because I guess it
Mhm.
depends on the type of relationship you're in, because there's some couples who literally do everything together.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've been with somebody like that and it didn't
Mhm.
work,
Yeah.
surprisingly. I kind of enjoy or get along with somebody who also enjoys their private time and has their own thing going on.
Mhm.
So I guess those types of people don't need the advice, but for those who find that they are regularly doing everything together,
Mhm.
how do you have that conversation where you're just like, hey, look, I need a little bit of time to myself?
I think it's really valuable to remember that when you're in a relationship, that doesn't mean that you need to be twins. It doesn't mean, you don't have to be like in lockstep with each other and always, having the same values, the same opinions, the same political views. Like there's part of the enjoyment of relationships is allowing for a sense of curiosity so that you can continue discovering your partner, because your partner's not going to stay static. They're going to evolve over time. And that's part of having freedom in relationships. Whenever people hear the word freedom and relationships together, they get scared because they think, oh, that does that mean my partner's just going to cheat on me or whatnot? And I'm not talking about that at all. I'm more so talking about the fact that your partner is a being of change and their preferences are going to evolve over time. The things they want to read, their hobbies, what work feels important to them. And they're going to continue evolving, and trying to pretend that that's not real. Whether you like to be very similar to your partner or not, you're never going to be 100% similar. There's
Hmm.
still going to be differences. And those differences are actually part of what makes the relationship enjoyable.
See, I appreciate this advice coming from you, because you are in a long-term relationship which seems to be quite clearly working.
Mm.
And it's funny with this whole social media space how there is so much dating advice going out there, but it's coming from very questionable sources.
Yeah.
So, so it's either coming from these like female psychologists who have a very questionable dating history or
Mhm.
selection of partners, and also from guys, these alpha male
Alpha
guys
males, yeah.
who don't have kids,
Yeah,
or just have also had like a really strange past history
yeah.
of dating. And it's like, yeah, I kind of hear what you're saying, and some of those points are valid, but I actually like to hear the advice coming from guys who are in really wholesome long-term relationships that also have kids as well,
Mhm.
because they're the ones that are actually like walking the walk and talking the talk.
Yeah, just, like, have a real kinda rounded out experience. It was funny, so, I like to keep my life relatively private. Like, I'll come out and do podcasts and things like that when I have a book to promote, like a new launch. Um, but other than that, like, I'm not really promoting my face on the Instagram, but I started first writing about personal growth, and because personal growth and relationships are really they're like intrinsically connected, I started writing about relationships too. And I remember seeing comments where someone was like, "You're not even in a relationship. Why are you writing about relationships?" And I was like, "Wow, I realized that I had kept my life so private. People had no idea. I've been married for years."
Yeah,
And like my wife and I have been together for 17, 18 years. We've been this summer we're going to be married for 10 years now. We got
yeah.
married when I was 27 when we got married. Um and it's been a long journey. It's been a long journey. And I think part of that, because my social media following did start getting really big when I was about 28. Um, I
Was there
think
any reason why the growth kind of exploded then?
I think a lot of it was right place, right time.
Okay.
Right place, right time. And also just the topics were resonating with other people. I
Yeah.
was curious about self love. Self love was growing at that time. But I think part of the success that's sort of helped my relationship keep honestly, for the relationship to keep its own sanity is that we're not posting couple photos all the time. We're not like, like she enjoys being a private person. And she allows me to talk about our relationship and to share the lessons that we've learned together. But I think having that part of my life be private has
Yeah.
honestly kept us really, I don't know, like in a safer place.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed that before when I've been in relationships in the past. People would either they might assume that I'm single, or they just question. Even my ex-partner, would question like, "Why are you not posting pictures of me?" And I'm like, "Look, like I've been there, I've done it before, and it came with a lot of
Yeah.
problems. Either if there's somebody who really wants to screw with you or mess up your life,
Yeah.
going directly to your partner,
Mm-hmm.
they can cause problems. They want to cause problems." And then I feel as though with myself, like I'm quite public about pretty much everything. I'm
Yeah.
very open in podcasts. I got my main YouTube channel. I have my vlogs where I'm showing everybody about my life. I'm like, can I have a little thing for myself,
Totally.
just for myself?
Especially as a long-term, content creator, you have to kind of understand what 15 to 30% of your life you're going to show.
Mm-hmm.
Because for your own mental health, part of it needs to be private.
Yeah.
Like they don't need to know about all of your hobbies and everything that you're reading all the time, and who all of your friends are. One of like my favorite online spaces is I have a private Instagram account and only 300 people follow it, just people that I know. And I post on that thing like it's 2014. I'll just post the stupidest stuff, just like, whatever random thing I'm eating when I'm like in London or in Dubai, and
Yeah.
or posting just pictures of my wife and I, and like, sometimes we look good in them, sometimes we don't look good in them. We're just like waking up. I don't know, I just
It
post
doesn't
whatever.
have to be perfect.
Yeah, I post whatever I want, and it's just for the friends and the family, and it's nice to have like this little part where it's like old school social media where
Yeah.
it was way less, high demand, high quality.
Mhm.
But even that's just for the friends. Yeah.
What is your view on the, I don't know, the dating space and advice which is kind of being given on social media these days?
I think you need to learn how to take your own advice. I think that's the biggest thing. I wrote a piece the other day, and I was, really saw how it connected with people where you really have these three leaders inside of you. You have your intuition, you have your values, and you have your nervous system. So a lot of people can give you advice. Some of it is applicable, some of it's not. No matter what, the advice is only valuable if you personally make use of it and activate it in your own life. So ultimately, you need to be okay with leading yourself. And yeah, you're going to come across amazing teachers and whatnot, but every piece of advice is not necessarily applicable in every single situation. Everything is highly situational. So, the causes and conditions of one moment may require a particular action, but isn't going to require that action every single time. You have to be okay with being dynamic and being flexible.
Mhm.
So I think people really have to trust themselves, because ultimately, like, no one knows your life better than you do. So, if you should break up with this person or not.
Yeah.
If you should date this person or not. It's just, do you have the courage to make the move?
Well, I guess it's easier for you to make those decisions and listen to your gut instinct when you're older and you've experienced more of life. I think it's a lot more challenging for youngsters. I would even argue young men, because if you're a young guy in late teens, early 20s, I think you'll have a much harder time replacing someone compared to maybe a woman who's of that age, because they're almost like in their prime and can quite easily replace a guy. So it's a difficult one. And when people are asking me for advice when it comes to like breakups or what to do, I always say in the 20s, just focus on yourself as much as you can do, because the best years is still yet to come.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too. And I found that on the inverse of that, just to point out another side of this, of what we're talking about, I found that stabilizing my relationship in my 20s, where the first half of my 20s, our relationship was very chaotic. And then I started meditating when I was about 24 years old, and slowly my mind started stabilizing. We both started growing. We decided that we wanted to get married, got married at 27. And I think probably when I think about the two biggest things that have helped me be successful have been getting married and meditating. Like having those two things where it's like my clear path of cultivating myself and my sort of a clear sense of home have helped me just like go out into the world and just make things happen.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess the pros of getting married early is that you're not spending so much of your time going out dating.
When I think about
trying to
my
impress
boys,
people.
when I think about my boys who like are, how much of their mind is consumed on like they want a wife, they want kids, they want this person, that person, and it takes up a lot of their energy. And I don't have that where because those things are kind of set
Yeah.
and laid out for me now.
Yeah, even I look back and I reflect at the past, maybe the past 5 years, past 10 years, there's been a lot of time devoted to women and dating. And I'm like, wow, imagine what you could have achieved if you just like
we
focused.
could have been meditating together.
Yeah. So it's, it's interesting. I think if you haven't got your career on point or you haven't developed skill sets, I think that should really be the priority first. And then you can maybe allocate some time to the whole dating thing and hopefully find the right person sooner.
But I think either way you win, those are two really big parts of life, especially if you, your career, no matter what, like you have the longest relationship is going to be between you and yourself and being able to establish the way that gives you the most content to like put out value into the world, right? Like, because when you think about your own happiness, part of why you're content is because you feel good about the value that you're putting out into the world. And having that sorted out is huge. So no matter what, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, like figuring out what you want to give to the world, how you want to be of service, massive. It's really, really critical.
So with the book that's just come out, who is that for, would you say?
I think it's for people who are, it's really for anybody because you're always in relation to whomever you're in proximity to. So whoever I'm next to, like whether it's your roommate, your parents, your siblings or your intimate partner, like you're in relationship with them to a certain degree. Now, the book focuses on people who are in partnerships and it talks about personal growth and, how to argue, how to get over heartbreak, how to build harmony in your relationship. But those same sort of standards and lessons, you can pull them out to any facet of your life because, human beings, like we think we're very different, but there are a lot of similarities. Like no matter what, if I'm having an argument with my wife or with you and we're having an argument, when we don't understand each other, we can't see each other. We literally can't see each other's points of view. So now if we were to focus our argument on just understanding each other as opposed to winning, as opposed to me dominating the narrative or you dominating the narrative, if we just focus on understanding each other, eventually we would take turns, say our points of view, and the tension would evaporate until we can finally really see each other clearly. And that is true whether it's a friend, whether it's a workmate, or whether it's your partner. You don't want to fight to win. You want to fight to understand.
Yeah, which can be difficult when the emotions are high. And I've realized something with myself. I am not very good at expressing my feelings. Like I just turn into some weird blubbering idiot that just like it doesn't make any sense. And then they're like looking at me like, is this guy, what's wrong with him? And I've realized if I really want to understand myself and get something across to a partner, I am much better writing everything down. So if there's something which I'm wanting to get across to them or something which I just can't put into words, maybe because I've never been taught how to express myself properly. Like that was probably something that was lacking in my childhood. Because I was pretty much raised without a mother. Mum passed away when I was 11 to breast cancer. So there was kind of like that side which I feel as though was missing. Maybe a whole host of other things. But I've realized now, if I can just take some time out, process my thoughts, write it down, how I feel, what I want, and then I just get them to read it.
You're making me think that like, were you maybe suited for a different time? Or like, are you a man of letters? Like you would have been so good at writing letters.
I know. I have actually, it's not something I do regularly.
Yeah.
But I have done it a few times in relationships.
Yeah.
And I'll write down what I think, and then I'll go over it a few times and obviously tweak a few things. It's almost like there's an essay sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's like, yes, this is exactly how I feel.
That's
Like,
so nice.
there we go. And then they have a better understanding of me, thoughts, emotions, which I'm dealing with. And it usually works quite well. But they might be terrible at writing, but they're very good at communicating it verbally.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work as well for me.
This is a really important thing that you're mentioning, right? Because if we really care about our partner and wanting to make sure that they are also in their power, because I'm not like, from what I've seen from direct experience, when you're in a partnership, you both take turns leading, being the leader at different, you're both just good at different things. So, you step up and step back depending on the situation that's happening. But one thing that's important is like, when you're going into an argument with your partner, you have to really focus on this thing, what I was talking about in terms of understanding, because usually there's one partner that's just better at talking than the other person. So obviously they're going to win.
Yeah.
Like if your partner's a lawyer, they're going to beat you every time because they just know how to argue. So when you take away the objective of winning, it's like, okay, no one's trying to win. Now we're just trying to understand. That's when you can, show up like I had time to process my feeling. And even if I'm not that good of a debater, we're not debating anymore. I'm just trying to explore and share how I'm understanding, because people are very different.
Yeah. And they would misunderstand me because there would be this frustration that builds up, but I'm not getting angry or frustrated with them. I'm getting frustrated with myself because I can't express myself the way that I want to. And then it annoys me.
Yeah.
And then I start to beat myself up, but it comes across as though I'm getting angry, but I'm not. It's just I'm getting frustrated with myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I've felt moments similar to that. And what's helped me is just like being okay with moving slowly. It's like, I don't know the answer right now. I'm just full of all these emotions. And like, I just need time to kind of sort it out and see what's like the real path forward.
So you would say some degree of conflict, or arguing is probably not the right word, but you can't just expect endless peace.
No. And I would even say arguments are okay.
Yeah.
Like I think you can be in a healthy relationship and still have real ups and downs, still have arguments, moments of hard conversations. And that's like a natural part of being in a relationship. I think us expecting like a romantic comedy type of, relationship where two people like each other, they overcome one serious issue and then they're together happily ever after. That's just not realistic.
Yeah.
We're being fed an illusion. So when you think about healthy relationships, I like to think of the example of my wife's parents. Like they've been together for, I think, about 40 years, and they argue. They argue, and it's fine. They argue calmly. They don't hate each other. They're not like in danger, but they don't always agree, and that's okay. But I've been teaching myself too. Like my wife also meditates a lot, so I really trust her wisdom. And when there are moments that we don't agree, I can't immediately think that I'm right. I may hold a particular perspective, but I think slowing down to really see like, okay, if we disagree, especially if it's like a work thing, then it's like, I need to take time to see her view also, even whether I agree with it or not, to just really reflect on what her view is, because I may be missing something.
Yeah. I think one issue which I have had and I'm trying to get better at is knowing that I'm the type of person that generally likes to avoid conflict and difficult conversations.
Yeah.
Well, I'd imagine most people probably don't like difficult conversations. Some people do. But, with work and everything else that's going on, I just want like the relationship side to be as peaceful as it possibly can be, and to avoid conflict at all costs. And I've come to the understanding and realization that is like not realistic. And there are going to be some times where there has to be a difficult conversation, or, there needs to be a conflict that needs to be sorted out, whatever it might be. And I think the issue which I've had is I've never really been taught how to approach that type of conversation, or to deal with it. I'd always been like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Like if this gets too frequent, I'm just going to go replace and find someone who's going to give me less
Totally.
stress and headache.
Totally.
And that's just not realistic.
No, it's not realistic. And you got to be careful with, you know, I have this hypothesis that a lot of relationships that could have been great relationships, people just gave up too early because conflict started appearing. And we don't want, like what you said, I'd rather laugh than fight. And I'd rather have a calm, peaceful environment than fight. But sometimes the argument points to a wall that the two of you didn't see, that if you pay attention to it, that wall can be undone and your connection can come closer together. So that's what I found is like the moments where we have these disagreements, there's some little block there. And if we pay attention to it and just take our turns going back and forth, we can then, undo it and become closer together.
You've mentioned before about the importance of healing and how I imagine a lot of us have some degree of healing which we need to process. How do we go about that? Because I think with either the upbringing that they've had or maybe the experiences they've had through previous relationships, we're all damaged a little bit, some more than others. So how do we go about healing ourselves?
Yeah, there's a poem I wrote back in, I think, like 2016, and it's just 4 words. It's observe, accept, release, transform. And I think whether you're, working on healing yourself through meditating or through some sort of therapy, these elements are really critical, where you have to observe yourself, you have to accept what you find. In the process of accepting, there is release, and in the release, transformation becomes possible. And I think a lot of times, like some people connect with the word trauma, others don't. Whether you think you've experienced trauma or not, you have absolutely had hard moments. You've had moments of strong reaction, moments of great anger, moments of great sadness, and all of that gets imprinted in the mind. All of that shapes the mind, shapes your patterns, shapes the way you show up in the present moment. So you can't think that the past is just a past. No, the past is like literally pushing itself into the present. And we can be oblivious to that. And that can really affect our ability to give and receive in relationships. So taking the time to pay attention to how your past has shaped your mind, your emotional history, observing yourself, seeing what your dominant patterns are, I think it's really important work. You can call it healing, you can call it personal growth, whatever you want. But ultimately, it's you embracing your evolution, accepting your evolution into your own hands.
I guess the first step is having that self-awareness that there are some things which you need to deal with. And unfortunately, it seems as though not everybody has it to the same degree.
Yeah, and it's built over time. Like you can have a certain degree of self-awareness, but you'll be surprised at how much is really in there. Like there's so much stuff in there.
Yeah.
And in the act of, you keep finding more stuff and you just accept, like stop fighting the past because you're just fighting yourself.
Yeah. I think one of the advantages that I've had with obviously me going to the gym and looking the way that I look is I would say I'm very self-aware with how certain foods make me feel after I eat them.
Yeah.
And how even just different types of activity, different lifestyle choices can have an effect on how I look and how I feel. And it's funny how I sometimes just watch people who are trying to get in shape and they're just eating garbage or just they keep falling into these bad habits where they're doing these things which are conflicting with that goal they have. And I'm like, how are you not like self-aware enough to understand this is like damaging the whole process of you getting to where you want to go to?
Yeah, I think that same self-awareness that you have akin to your body, we can all develop that and become super sensitive to just like feeling like, oh, this ice cream is making me feel very different from that protein. But with the same thing with our emotions, and it's like, you feel your emotions and you're like, oh yeah, this doesn't feel great, but it's going to change.
It's so funny when I remember there's 2 times when I really felt this. It was over the Christmas period, and then when I went to Rome. This was in, I think it was in October time, and literally in a matter of 2 or 3 days, where the diet was predominantly pizza, pasta, and gelato.
Just a
like,
Carbosaurus
oh,
Rex.
I literally felt like a different person. I was thinking differently.
Yeah.
And like, even for me, I visually was like looking different. But some people are literally living like that and not understanding like, okay, this is really having an impact on your lifestyle.
Have you ever fasted?
I have done, yes. I think I've never done more than 24 hours.
Yeah. Even like 18, 17 hours in, like the clarity that comes over the mind, and it's like the precision that the mind works in. Those are some of my favorite times to do creative work. It's like, when I only have like one meal a day or something like that, and then it's like, wow, the mind's just working so sharply.
Are you having like a coffee whilst you're in that state, or is it just
sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes but just if I do have coffee, just black.
Yeah. It's interesting because your body will go through phases where you'll get these waves of hunger, but then it kind of just disappears.
Yeah, and it disappears faster and faster too. The longest I've done is like, done like a 3-day fast, and it's honestly it's hard, it's challenging, but it's really nourishing.
How did you find sleep when you were doing that?
Sleep was weird. It was weird. I would sleep, and the sleep was very efficient. Like the aura would tell me, like, wow, you slept very deeply. Your beats per minute were very low, and so the recovery was great, but the sleep itself didn't really feel that deep for me.
Yeah.
And when I would wake up, I'm like out of bed, ready to hunt.
Yeah, I've not done it. The only reason is because it's not really ideal for preserving muscle mass.
Yeah.
But those that have done it, they've said that even though the sleep has not been their longest sleep, but the quality of it's very good.
Yeah.
But the problem is, which I've experienced, if you do go to, like, when I'm cutting and I'm restricting my calories for a prolonged period of time, I wake up earlier than usual and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to, as you said, hunt.
Yeah.
But I look at my sleep and I'm like, that wasn't a whole lot of sleep.
Yeah.
But the quality of it was very good.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happens. That there's so many, our body and our minds they're just deeply affected by the inputs.
What's your experience been with venture capital?
Oh, it's been really fun. It's a really fun way to be creative. It's like, I think of it as a different way it's a different way to help. Like our Wisdom Ventures it's a company that focuses on compassionate innovation. So we're thinking about this next wave of technology, especially when it comes to AI, and how we can have a seat at the table and just try to, steer things in a much more humanistic direction. That's what supports human creativity. It supports human compassion. It supports, us living well and really flourishing.
It's a group of you.
It's a group of us. Yeah. Myself, Jack Kornfield, who's one of the people that brought mindfulness to the West. Bradley Horowitz, he was a longtime vice president at Google. So he led the team that developed Gmail. A lot of the products that we use every day, he's had his hand in all of them and developing them. And there's a few more of us. Soren, who runs Wisdom 2.0, this really powerful conference out in Silicon Valley, and a few other partners. And we've come together with, such a wide range of experience, and it's been great. We've invested in over 36 companies. Our fund 1 was initially $10 million. Now we're raising a fund 2 that's going to be about $50 million. And we're just, trying to support founders that are maintaining a level-headedness while their company grows. Because our thing is like, what happens when a person gets power? And then power will pull out the roughest parts of your ego. And we want to give founders not only good business advice, but like good mental health advice. And, if they need to be,
teaches you that.
We want to connect you not only with like, great meditation teachers and therapists and whatnot, but just give you that inner skill set that you need to be able to show up for the world and for yourself.
What do you find the biggest struggles are for entrepreneurs and founders? I imagine it's just the stress. Probably.
Yeah, it's just straight up burnout. And like, it's challenging to design a product that is solely focused on the greatest maximal outcome in terms of profit, which is like, our whole economy is driven in that direction. but can you find the balance of reaching high profit and also reaching maximum impact in a compassionate manner? Like, and we were really sort of inspired too by the clothing industry, where like a lot of people have been much more intentional about like, where are my clothes coming from? Are they
Yeah.
made from good products? Are they made, are the people who make them like being taken care of well? And the same thing, like we were just talking about, nutritional products. People care more about like, is this product actually giving me the value that I need? Like, is
Yeah.
it really going to help my life, or is it just a bunch of junk? So we're trying to bring that same energy to the tech world. And, when you're designing your product, are you designing it in a compassionate manner that works with the mind as opposed to just making the mind more enslaved?
Yeah. So what's been some of the exciting businesses that you
We
guys have invested in?
there's a few big ones. We were able to invest in Anthropic, which it's great. They make Claude. We were able to invest in OpenAI, Better Leave. It's a bunch of companies,
Oh, wow.
and it's been great. It's been fantastic to be able to just talk to these like major founders and help in whatever way we can.
And I imagine one of the things that would encourage you to invest is not only the business itself, but the founder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what was really exciting was like I met Sam Altman, and he meditates. Like, he's a pretty serious meditator. Like,
Yeah.
he learns from my partner Jack Cornfield, and Jack's he's a good guy. So
Mhm.
that gives me a lot more trust in this gigantic thing that he's building.
Mhm. Do you guys ever have conflict with each other when you're deciding which company to invest in?
Totally, all the time. But we're like super peaceful about it, and we also know that we have rules with the way we invest where it only requires like 3 of the 6 partners to be able to, actually make an investment. We don't need to agree unilaterally. We know that we have different strengths, and we also know that we see different things. Like, I'm the youngest partner, so I know that I learn a lot from my fellow partners that are in their 50s, but there's also things that I can see about like the trends of where tech is going that they might not necessarily see just because I'm, a little
Mhm.
younger.
And what are the trends?
Well, I mean, I think, no matter what, you got to build up your newsletter. Like, no
Okay.
matter what, I think
Yeah.
uh, the social media landscape is changing fast. And it's been very challenging for people to not really have access to their followers. So I'm really happy that we also invested in Substack.
Mm.
Substack I think it's an incredible company. They literally just reached 5 million paid subscribers, like people who are paying individuals for extra content. So there's this whole creator economy that Substack is supporting, where people who have big TikToks and Instagrams. I have a Substack too, where you can go on there and you are basically almost like your own little news outlet. You share some things for free, and some other things are paid. And I think it's wonderful because then creators have ownership over the reach.
Mm.
Like, if you sign up for my newsletter, you're going to receive it.
Yeah.
That they're not going to get rid of that.
I found
Yeah.
that baffling over, I don't know when it started happening. I feel like it's over the past few months. The reach on Instagram is very weird.
Yeah.
It's like, I would argue that the quality sometimes of my content is like getting better, like the photos.
Yeah.
I'm like, these are sick photos. But for whatever reason, I mean, I know for a while Instagram was been pushing reels.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of my stuff is not getting through to my followers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that's because they're following 1,000 people and I'm competing with another 1,000 people, or whether it's something to do with the algorithm, or maybe because I've been around on social media for so long, I've accumulated a lot of followers, but maybe a lot of those followers are not necessarily as active as they used to be. So, they're just not online. But it's fascinating how it is always changing.
Yeah.
Like, and as you mentioned, that's why a newsletter is so powerful, because
so powerful. And now add AI into it, right? Where AI is making everything hyper polished, and the words are not even necessarily your words anymore. And there are so many images where you can't even really tell, like, is this even really real?
Yeah.
And it feels like so much of the social media landscape, because AI is just such a big part of it now, it all feels so fake that we're craving depth. We're craving connection. Like we really want to, like, I want to hear the lessons that have made your life better, but I want to hear them from you. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear it from the, your thoughts that you shoved into ChatGPT and then gave to me.
Hmm.
And you get more of that realness through newsletters. And it's a little harder on social media because the algorithms are always changing, and then all the social media companies are battling each other. So they're like adopting, expanding, and I think we're sort of in that phase where we don't quite know what's going to come next. But what you do know is the certainty of the newsletter. So if you're a content creator, you know, email's where it's at.
Yeah. Is that where you feel as though with your social media platforms, that's where you can get across more of your
Yeah,
message?
I'm putting a lot more energy into it because I enjoy posting on Instagram. Don't get me wrong.
Are you still doing it, or do you have a team?
I do it myself because I'm the one who got it to 3 million. So like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
hand it over to somebody else.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. But I still enjoy posting on Instagram, but it caters towards minimalism, right? It caters towards like sort of like micro thoughts,
Mhm.
small little gems that could, bring a little vibrancy to people's lives. And I enjoy offering these materials for self-reflection. But in the newsletter, I can write articles like what you were just talking about. Like I'll sit down and I'll have fun for an hour or 2 hours, just like working on a little essay that's like 800, 900 words.
Mhm.
And then I send it out and like people read it and they get some value from it. Can't quite do that, on Instagram.
You would never let somebody else write on your behalf.
No, not on my behalf. I would let people, I mean, the only person who ever has is my wife. Like she has written, there was like 2 poems that were in my Clarity and Connection book that she wrote. She wrote a poem in The Way Forward. That was my previous book. And then she took time to like go over like so I finished the manuscript of my recent book, How to Love Better, but she went through the whole book and would give me like her thoughts. And she's
Mhm.
almost like my first editor. But I write like literally like 99.9% of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I struggle with this issue of getting into the flow of writing, because I know once I'm in it, I'm actually quite good. I
Yeah.
feel so I'm quite
Yeah.
good. But usually the prospect of having to sit down and come up with something from nothing, I think
Mhm.
it's that image of looking at a blank page. I'm like, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
What do I even talk about?
Yeah.
Like there's a hell of a lot up there,
Mm.
but it's trying to get it into words and thinking about what it is that people want to read.
Mm.
And I know it's the first couple of minutes, it might even be 10 minutes, like nothing is coming out. And I'm trying to just not get myself distracted by all the distractions around. But then
Mhm.
once I'm locked in, like a lot will start to come out.
Yeah.
So it's really just having this ability to zone out, and I guess meditation is
Yeah.
one of the things that's going to help.
Zone out and zone in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And you know that the writing is good if you're having fun in the process.
Mhm.
I think sometimes when I'm putting together essays, it feels like I'm like putting together a puzzle that like is invisible almost. And I'm like kind of putting it together. And then at one point it just like kind of clicks. And it's like, okay, this is right. I don't need to write anymore.
Mhm.
And then I shoot it out there into the world and see how it does. But it takes a lot of time to be able to manage the 2 different aspects of the mind, where I notice that if I'm just emailing, taking calls, doing meetings, sucks up all my creativity.
Yeah.
And then I have trouble sort of just, writing some new stuff.
Mhm. So apart from meditating, what do you enjoy doing?
I really enjoy going on long walks with my wife. That's been like our favorite new thing in the past year.
Are you
We
talking with each other, or are you just in silence?
We talk a little bit, but usually we're like looking around at the nature too. It depends on like what, if there's anything like prevalent in that day. But we've been enjoying like being in nature. There's this cool thing I don't know if I mean, you definitely don't have that in Dubai, but I don't know if you have that in the UK. We have these things called rail trails in Western Massachusetts, where there would be old train lines that don't work anymore, and they pull out the tracks, and then they're just, you can walk for miles, literally for like 9, 10
Just
miles, just
straight.
straight. and then you're walking and it's these tiny little paths and it's just woods next to you or like marshland, and they're just so beautiful and they change over the over the seasons, but they're super just like great way to tap into nature.
Yeah, that's one of the issues. Obviously, living in Dubai or living in a city, you don't really get that exposure to nature. So every so often, I make it a point of mine to just go somewhere and just escape and really try to switch off and not think too much about work or the day-to-day stuff. And usually when I have trips like that and I come back, there is I don't know, I see things differently. I feel almost this like fresh wave of motivation just ready to kind of attack.
Yeah, I like, my whole life I've spent it in cities, and I think about 4 or 5 years ago, my wife and I we realized that we got tired of the concrete. We were just like, the only nature we have is the sky, and it's so far away. So we decided to move over to the woods, and it's been a nice change because no matter what, work always pulls me into the cities. Like I spent a lot of time in New York and LA, but being able to go back home to the woods is just the nicest thing.
What do you have planned for the rest of this year?
For this year, I'm going to finish releasing this book. I'm going to put a lot of energy into it because it took time for me to not only learn these lessons about what's actually helping my relationship be better, but also just grow as a writer. It's like, this is my 5th book. So How to Love Better, I think not only has the best of what I've learned about personal growth and relationships, but also I've really taken the time to cultivate my voice as a writer. So I'm excited for people to be able to, hopefully be served by that well. And other than that, I think I'm going to meditate for 20 days. I'm going to use the summer to really just relax. I've been going hard for a little while.
Yeah.
And my sort of private goal is to run a half marathon and to take that strength training to another level.
Yeah. I think it's very doable.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine with your mindset,
Yeah.
any discomfort and pain, you'll probably be able to process.
I can bear
If
the
not, you
pain.
probably need to speak to David Goggins and get some advice from him. Awesome, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Everyone go check out his book, which it's on Amazon, everywhere else.
Yeah.
Imagine, yeah. And people can follow you on social media.
Yeah, so the book is How to Love Better. You can get it on Amazon and bookstores. You can follow me on the Instagram, Young Pueblo, with an underscore in the middle. And you can follow me on Substack, also Young Pueblo, and the Young is without an O.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike.